Welcome back to Taking Care of Business, the podcast by Allsopp and Allsopp, the leading real estate brokerage in Dubai. I'm joined today by John Travolta, also known as Paul Kelly. He's got very big collars today. And also Paul is our operations director. And also I'm joined by Jess Stephenson. She is the head honcho, Mrs. Legal. She's our head of sales progression.
That's me, indeed.
Welcome, Jess.
Thanks for having me today.
And welcome aboard. And welcome back, Paul.
Thank you.
So today, obviously, our topic, we're talking about the trials and tribulations of buying a house in real estate. Lots of bumpy roads and pitfalls and lots of things you've got to do to get actually in the property. So we brought Jess in today to talk about what it's like, what you have to do, some of the things that perhaps you may need to be prepared for but when you're buying a house, but also just give you a little bit of insight of some of the things we found this year. The first 5-6 months into Dubai and what's actually been happening. So I guess, Jess, before we do that, tell us a little bit about you. Tell us about your star sign, your favourite movie, stuff like that.
Well, I've actually been with you guys. I was just thinking earlier this week.
Too long.
Yeah, too long. I think about 8 years now. I've been in Dubai with Allsopp and Allsopp, but I'm originally from Newcastle. And I've spent my good years here so far.
In your peak.
The 20s, now we're going into the early 30s. The best years of my life have been here. But yeah, a favourite movie, I've watched Donnie Darko about 200 times.
Oh, wow,
big movie. Weird one.
Big movie. But your background from the UK was legal?
So legal real estate.
Yeah.
I suppose we call it estate agency back at home, don't we?
Yeah.
But yeah, you get into so quickly calling it real estate. But
you do. And here you've done probably every bit of the job in real estate.
Absolutely. Yeah. I have had the tour of jobs in Allsopp and Allsopp. I think the only thing I've not done is made the tea.
That's not because you're not very good though. It's because you are good and you've done everything.
Yeah. No, I have experience, I think, from the sales team, leasing. I remember we had a magazine that I wrote for you. Yes. We did that for, God knows how long we did that for.
It was very good. 3367.
Yeah, it was.
Very good.
Yeah. But yeah, no, I absolutely loved writing that. And I do still, I still like to keep in with, that creative side, I suppose.
So tell us about what you do today, because, sales progression, the legal side of things, a lot of people, when they buy a house, they might just think, well, you buy a house and, give the guy, the seller his money and, you should be able to move in 4 weeks. And ideally, that's the perfect scenario. But tell us a little bit about what you do in your role. So the sales progression team, first and foremost, how many people work in the sales progression?
I think my head count's 13 at the moment.
So 13 now legal team that are responsible for getting
I know.
all of the sales
side of the business.
It's a big old team. Absolutely.
And just for people listening and watching who might not know, what is sales progression?
So it's the part of the sales transaction after you've signed your MOU or your contract. So you've done all the fun part, you've picked the property, you've gone through the negotiation stage with your broker, with the seller, with the buyer. And then that's the point where you've agreed the price, what date you want to move in, what kind of sale this is going to be. And then it actually has to go to the legal part where we are going to transfer this property from the seller over to the buyer. And that is the process that we control there. So that's what the team are in charge of. So
again, I come back to it, it sounds so simple, but me personally, I said yesterday in a manager's meeting that the sales progression team probably have the most thankless job and the most, I guess, underappreciated job, not just from maybe our teams, but also clients as well. The amount of work that goes in, because you're dealing with so many different entities. You're dealing with government, you're dealing with different developers. Some are perhaps more advanced than others in terms of their processes. So it'd be really good just to kind of give everyone an idea of some of the things you have to go through. So you've done all the negotiations. What do your team do from the moment?
I think that's really the starting point for me. So where I think a lot of people will think that's it. Let's just go and transfer it, right? We've signed the contract. Let's just go and get it done. Unfortunately, it's not quite that simple. So there is quite a drawn out process, to be honest, that we have to follow. And that is set by entities like the banks, the government, the developers. So we follow these processes. Now, some of them could do with some improvement, and we're really there to navigate through those
very
steps.
Diplomatic. Very diplomatic.
Diplomacy is a key skill in sales progression, I think. But yeah, certainly there can be pitfalls, and it's so easy to fall into them if you're just not experienced really with dealing with it. And the reason we operate with the sales progression team are so specialist is they have so much experience. If you think about it, they are doing it day in, day out with the same developers, same banks, and they're well connected and they become experienced and they foresee the any pitfalls coming up. And I think the way I always look at it is, once that deal is actually signed and you've agreed to buy the property, as I say, that for me that's the first part of the job, but it's a project afterwards, and it's a project that needs managing. Any other, if you're doing a refurb on your house, you'd have a project manager, and there are so many different elements to come together, and that needs managing, and that's really the essence of what the sales progression team are there for.
So what's the biggest pitfall? What's the biggest bit of advice we can give someone? Because again, we're there to help. That's our job, to go through the steps. Yeah. But at the end of the day, when someone buys a house, it is a little bit of a partnership as well, where we need input from that buyer or seller to kind of help us, as well as help guide them. What would you say one of the biggest takeaway would be to help someone?
For me at the moment, it's buyers getting their mortgage in place at early days. So that means for me, before you're signing a contract, making sure that you've already gone through your pre-approval with your bank, making sure that you've got all of your ducks in order, so that once you've signed that, you are ready to go. That's one of the major pitfalls.
Why is that really important though? Because can I just do it when I sign the contract? Surely it can be done in a few days.
What a lot of people say, isn't it?
Yeah.
Wait to sign the contract and say, then I'll sort my mortgage.
Yeah,
exactly. And I totally get that idea that I can just sign this and we'll sort it all out later.
Because I've got a relationship with my bank or whatever.
Yeah, absolutely. It's the time that it takes. And the banks they don't have as many staff as they used to. Just after the COVID pandemic, but the demand has come back so strong after COVID that these banks who have reduced their numbers are now seeing huge increase in demand for mortgages, and their sales teams just simply can't handle the volume of cases coming through.
So approvals at the moment we're finding week, sometimes maybe a little bit less, possibly
say
more,
a bit longer.
Yeah, it's anywhere between 7 and 10 days. So again, anyone buying a property, you've got to factor that in. All of a sudden you've signed a contract.
Yeah.
Typically a contract might be 2-3 months, maybe a little bit longer.
Exactly. And I think what some people miss when they're looking at this is that there's the buyer side of the contract to finish, which is get to the point of having your final mortgage approval in place. And people will look at the contract and think, look, I've got all of this time to do this. But there is actually a whole other side to the process, in that we've still got to complete all of the seller's work after the buyer's work is in place. So it's not about sort of using that space.
Kind of elaborate on that. What does the seller have to do? Because normally seller surely just kicks back and says,
waits to get the money.
Yeah, where's the money?
Yeah, that would be nice, wouldn't it?
Would be very nice.
I'm sitting here, I'll just wait for my check, wait for the call, it's in your bank account. There is still activity to be done from the seller's side. So once the buyer's mortgage is in place, most sellers will have mortgages in Dubai now. We're in that cycle that the majority of people that I find do have a mortgage on the property. So part of the process is the buyer's bank. So with your funds from your mortgage, say Carl, you're buying from Paul, we'll use your funds from your mortgage and clear off Paul's mortgage. And that will take time. And then we'll have a period of around 2-3 weeks where we're actually waiting for that clearance to come through, and we can go on to the next step, which would be NOC from developer after that. So there's still work to do. Once you've got your mortgage in place, that's when we can move on with the seller side. I think people forget that there's some work to be done as well on the other side. So definitely a good one to think about when you're as a buyer, especially. I've
bought multiple properties in Dubai, and my God, bearing in mind I do this job for a living, I've been doing it nearly 20 years. Had I not worked with Sales Progressor, I think I would be I'd have no hair, or be very grey. It would certainly age me, because you're having to deal with so many different parts of it. Whereas you guys, you get on and do everything, whether it's speaking to banks, whether it's speaking to surveyors, whether it's speaking to the other side of the deal, and it just makes things so much easier.
But relationships as well, because anecdotally, so many times I speak to one of the sales progression team about the day, like, how's your day been? And they'll say, oh, thank God Mohammed was there. Thank God Manoj was there today, because they pushed it through for me, they managed to get it done. And if you've not got those relationships, then you're not getting anywhere on that particular day. And then the process again goes on another 1 or 2 weeks, headache, stress, strains.
Yeah.
Like, sorry, Jess, if someone's got a final offer letter and it's running out that day and you don't clear the liability, and sometimes it is that relationship that allows you to clear the liability, that's another 2 or 3 weeks on the process again to get another final offer letter, to get another liability letter, etc., etc. So for me, just from talking to the team, the relationships they've got is absolutely crucial.
Yeah, absolutely. They build them over a number of years, really. All of the team are, I think, the sort of 3, 5, 6 years in sales progression with us. So they've got really good relationships.
And it's the volume to deal with at any one time.
Yeah.
We're talking hundreds of cases
Absolutely.
that we're dealing with.
And the clients, you have jobs, as a buyer and seller, you want to be you've already got a full-time job. You don't want to be also looking at, well, where is this at? What do I need to get there? Do I need to run into the developer's office and chase them? No, we've got somebody actually who is already sat there for you. So,
and I guess from a real estate agent's perspective, obviously we talk about the benefits to clients, but from my point of view, I don't want our agents in our business sitting somewhere potentially for 3-4 hours in the morning when typically real estate agents aren't perhaps the best. How can I put it? Not administrators, it's the wrong word, but in terms of account management. Yeah. So you want your best people doing the best things, and that's our viewpoint.
Yeah, 100%.
We had to do it. So when I first joined Allsopp, this 11 years ago, so it's a very different animal to what it is today. We had to do, for the first 6 months I was here, our own conveyance. And you're having to work out all the calculations for rent return, for the purchase price deposit, and an agent's not cut out to make those kind of calculations, or to... Yeah. If that's in the hands of an agent, you're not in the best place to make sure that all the money... That's just one example, all the money's going to where it should be going, but the whole process...
Well, the vast majority of our team as well have either come from a property background or legal background. So I have utmost confidence that the people dealing with these cases are very, very, very good.
Yeah, absolutely. And you see them, I see them I'll walk into a trustee office and there'll be 5 or 6 of them there, and you can just tell that they're, they have really good relationships. And it, as you say, Paul, it is that difference between, does our transfer get done today or somebody else's? Yeah. And that's kind of what it comes down to.
So we talked about our sales progression team, and obviously we've got a real good team. We know how to get things done, but this year's been mad.
It certainly has.
It's been mad. Like this time last year, had you told me this would happen, obviously we started seeing things happening after lockdown, but had you told me things would be like this now in terms of the activity this year? I think the first 5 months this year I think every single real estate company in Dubai have reported huge uplift in activity. But obviously that doesn't just play a part in sales happening. These sales have to go through. So, I'd like to know some of the experiences you found over the last 5 months of this crazy rush and surge. I mean, firstly, why do you think that's happened? Mm-hmm. Who's buying? And then how have you found actually getting deals through with all this added pressure? Yeah,
well, it's fantastic, firstly, for the market, the team and the business and anyone involved in real estate in Dubai, really. But I think the reason why it's happened is that people have so much confidence at the moment. I think it was really the approach that Dubai took with dealing with the pandemic, which was really scary, especially set in lockdown. As you say, last year, would you have said, would I be sitting here with this volume of cases and the size of the team? It was just, you just couldn't imagine it while you were sat there. But for me, I'm seeing a huge amount of people coming in from Europe, coming in from the US. And I think what people are seeing is how well Dubai handled this. And these people that I'm seeing a lot of are more and more of the high net worth individuals who are looking at, can I have a base where I'm actually mobile, where the country can still function through a global pandemic? And that's really been a huge appeal for people. They've been, stuck in France or Germany or the UK or any of the countries that have been in serious lockdowns for very, very extended periods. And Dubai, they took that decision, and yes, we had about 3 months, I think, where nobody came in or out, but it was the right decision, and it made Dubai, we've been able to bounce back so much quicker. And I think those people are able to look at a place, and that's somewhere that's got a 3-hour time difference to Europe. I can be back in 7 hours. I can function from there. And the remote working idea of it, and being able to, jump on a plane and get here and be like, look, if anything happens, I can function. I can run my whole business operation globally from here. I think that's been a huge appeal. People have it's instilled a lot of confidence, I think.
And obviously allowing 100% ownership of businesses, that
100%
categorization
ownership.
of...
Yeah, and I saw the visa where you can, what are they calling them? I think that the buzzword is like digital nomads,
Yes.
where they
that's true.
can, you can move. And I think time zone wise, you know, as I say, it's a great place to be on that line that you can.
Do you think a factor in is
anywhere.
the mortgages as well? Because obviously you talked about a huge increase in mortgages and people having mortgages, but
Yeah.
do you think obviously last year that the government allowing people to put less money down, so obviously loan to value is increasing?
Yeah, so you're seeing this influx of people coming in from Europe, which I've certainly not seen it on this kind of scale before. But also the people that have been living in Dubai for 5-6 years, they've been traditionally renting, not too sure, you know, do I buy, do I not? Being able to lend that 80% loan to value, that increase, and also again seeing how the place has bounced back. The people that people like myself who've lived here for a long time, and then you're seeing actually this is a good place to invest because it's worked. You know, the place is functioning, and
I think that's a key thing, because a lot of the time in the past, people will think, I'm moving to Dubai, I'm going to save a house deposit. Maybe I'm going to live in Dubai and invest in properties, but I'm going to invest in my home country. But I think it is the decisive and visionary leadership that Dubai's shown over the last 12 months has shown people that this is a good place to be. And rather than investing in the home country, maybe they will invest in Dubai.
That's exactly what's happening. It's happening to so many clients that I meet, and they were thinking about, oh, well, we've always lived in an apartment. And then I was always thinking of saving to buy back at home and move back, and they've just gone, no, do you know what? I'm buying the villa here and we're going to live here. And I think there's been a huge shift of that. People who've been renting for a long time and moving into the
from your own
villas.
personal experience, you know, yourself, you've got on the ladder.
Yeah, exactly.
Well done, you.
Even myself.
Yes.
So I was one of those people who was, yes, let's save, let's buy the house at home. And then the more I thought about it, the less it made any sense. Yeah. You know, this is such a, Dubai for me, it just is such a still evolving place.
Yeah.
And the investment opportunity. And yeah, I'm delighted. I mean, I managed to buy something just after the
A lot of
pandemic,
people don't know, Jess, obviously, but I hope you don't mind me saying this. I would say you are quite a large procrastinator on decisions at times.
Hang on a second. Excuse me. You can talk as well. You put things off.
Do you not remember when I was buying a car?
Yeah.
I think, so I was in Dubai, rented a car for a couple of months.
Yeah.
And I remember one of my clients owned like a car rental business. And he said, how long have you been renting your car for? I said, about 18 months. He said, you know that you've just paid off that car like this month?
Oh, God. Don't.
And that's when I went and bought a car.
Oh, my God.
This was
hurts.
years ago.
But that analogy, it rings true of people buying houses and renting as well.
Yeah, exactly.
Someone was living somewhere for, I think, 6-7 years, and someone, I don't know who it was, a client or a friend of a friend, and they said, oh, you realise that you probably would have paid for 60-70% of the house in the time you've been renting it. And it's just like, I think that, again, we talk about people realising now for the pandemic, however long it goes on for, whether it's we're here for another year, 2 years, whatever it might be, I think people think, do you know what? Why go back to somewhere where things could close down again? I guess just in terms of, before we wrap up, are there any like highline things you want to share? Highline things you want to share with people with regards to sales progression? Any top tips or anything? Any experiences you've seen over the last few months?
No, I mean, top tips. I'd just go back to what Jess said. I'd ask your agent to, whether you're buying through Allsopp and Allsopp or not Allsopp and Allsopp, ask your agent to educate you on the process, because the exciting part is doing viewings, negotiating, and you get your offer accepted and you're on cloud nine, but you need to know what comes after that as well, because, and again, going back to the mortgage point, there's no point in getting your offer accepted if then you sign a contract and you find out subsequently you can't lend as much as you thought you could, or you don't meet a certain requirement. So it's just learning through the process. And highline figures, I mean, last week we had our record ever transfers. Feels like month on month we're having our record ever
transfers. So it's the most amount of people moved into homes, actually completed deals last week in ever in our history of business.
Absolutely.
I mean, we're, as a company, we're on a point where we're a real estate company, so there's a lot to the business, but primarily we sell and lease properties. We're now in a position where we're having to think, do we need a separate office just for our legal team to transfer properties? So I think that's testament to how the market is and how Dubai is and how we are as a business.
And we've just increased the team size, haven't we, by a couple more, because it is so busy, which is great.
It's needed, and it's fantastic to be in that position. Yeah, all good.
Any top tips for me before we go? Any do's and don'ts to avoid? Obviously, we talked about mortgages. Anything else you need to advise people to do?
Do you know what I would do? I think anything that you do in Dubai, make sure you keep a record of all of your documents. So I would say,
What, digitally or?
Digitally.
Yeah.
Make sure that you get yourself a cloud and you are uploading everything that you get, because you will need a lot of.
We love the drive, don't
very
we?
document
We love
heavy.
the Google Drive.
I love the drive.
Yeah.
Here's one
Drive
more
changed
top
my
tip.
life. How
If
sad
you're
is that?
a property owner in Dubai, make sure your contact details are updated with the land department.
Yes.
Very true.
Very, very
True.
good.
Maybe-
Why is that important?
So, it's a very, very good move from the land department in terms of digitalising the process. But there's something we call a unified Form F, which has been introduced over the last few weeks. Which, rather than traditionally we've always signed MOUs and then we've had the Form Fs for a few years now, and copies would be sent to buyers and sellers. That either you'd meet them and they'd sign, or they'd electronically sign and scan and send back to you. Now the land department are changing the process, and it's called a unified Form F. So it's all done digitally. It's all done through mobile phone and email communication. But if a seller's details aren't updated at the land department in order to receive the SMS communication, that causes delays in the transaction. And also it's getting easier now, but it's not like a 2-minute job just to change your phone number. So if you're thinking of selling your property, make sure your ducks in line from that point of view as well.
How would they do that? How would they update the system? Is there an app they can use?
Yeah, you can try it on the Dubai Rest app.
Yeah.
But if none of your details are right, so if they don't have your right phone number or email address, or maybe you left the country and you don't have those details anymore, then you can also email them at support@ires.ae.
Okay.
You can also get in touch with the land department that way.
It's a little plug for land department there, isn't
Yeah.
it? We're not advertising for them. All right, guys. Thank you very much for coming in this week and sharing the sales progression tips. It is a very daunting job buying a house anywhere in the world, not just Dubai. And what I would say to anyone doing it is be brave and buy a house. I think for anyone, having assets, having investments is a very, very good thing. But if you are doing that, ensure you have the proper advice. You speak to the right people around you. Again, whether it's with or without Allsopp and Allsopp, whether it's having a good legal expert, really good mortgage team to make sure you're handheld throughout the bumpy road that is buying a house, and ultimately your experience is a good one. But from me, guys, thank you very much.
Thank you.
We'll see you next week.
Thanks,
Bye.
guys.
Bye.